The Telecom War is one of the richest storylines in esports history. It's way older and bigger than League of Legends, but even leaving all of that history aside, this week's match between SK Telecom T1 and KT Rolster is setting up to be the biggest match of 2017 so far. And that depends, I guess, how you feel about Flash Wolves versus G2 Esports in the final they just had at IEM, but let's not go there. SKT and KT are delivering on the expectation that they would be the two best teams in the world this year, and they both have the tools they need to take the win in this first meeting. Let's look at 3 key win conditions for each team. So first of all, for SK Telecom T1, this is obviously a great team, led by Faker, multiple-time world champions. What I want to see them do, based on how they're playing this year, first of all, I want to see them set the pace of the series. SKT have the best early game in the LCK, closely followed by KT. Based on my early game rating model, SKT have a 69.4 EGR, KT have a 69.1, so it's very close, but they play the early game in somewhat different ways, and SKT's is a little more based on proactivity. I don't want to see SKT allow KT Rolster to stall the game into a measured, kind of tower-focused game, because KT have been a little better at the tower-focused play. They've got an 88% first tower rate, 88% of the time they get the first 3 towers of the game, and SKT are a little bit behind on that. They approach it a little bit more differently, a little more kill-oriented. So I want to see SKT pushing that pace, be proactive, look for some skirmishes, and I also want to see them set the pace in terms of being first to objectives, moving out on the map, and seeing, okay, we're trying to accomplish X, let's get there first and make it happen. Dragons especially are probably going to be contested. Both of these teams have very high dragon control rates. And SKT will want to choose the setups they have around the dragons, be the first ones there, and be the first ones kind of defining if there's going to be a fight here, this is where it's going to happen. You can use vision to set that up and just use your arrival. And that's really important because SKT are really great at controlling the spacing in fights, where the fights happen and how they kind of spread out or come together. You can look at one of Jat's recent breakdown videos where he talks about SKT's team fighting and specifically team fighting without a lot of crowd control tools and kind of classic initiation tools. And that really gets into what I'm talking about. So in terms of setting the pace, I want SKT to be out there kind of defining where they want to be, getting there first and forcing the enemy team to work around what SKT have decided is going to be the next move. I also want SKT to flow through the mid lane. So Faker versus Pawn, if you're looking at kind of head-to-head matchups and you want to simplify the matchup into that sense, Faker versus Pawn is the kind of the key matchup in SKT's favor. Pawn is the only player on either team, SKT or KT, who is averaging a negative goal difference in 10 minutes. He hasn't been bad, but he's been inconsistent. He hasn't been going out and dominating his lane. And kind of being a kind of a monolithic, kind of powerful mid laner in that way. I want to see SKT target Pawn, and don't allow him to get any momentum, kind of target his inconsistency and get him into a bad game, a bad series. And then if Faker can, just through his laning or whether Peanut is helping him through the jungle or Blank or whoever's in, if Faker can get stronger than Pawn in the head-to-head, then I want him to move out onto the rest of the map and help the rest of the team get ahead. Because both Faker and Pawn have done a lot of roaming. They like to get out into the side lanes or move with the jungler or with the support. And so you want to see Faker being the one who does this first and who does it more. Because either he's controlling lane better or he's just making the decision sooner, or SKT are setting up the map better, and that ties into the proactivity. The third thing I want to really see from SKT is I want to see them keep their play clean. They need to keep being aggressive, keep being proactive, but Faker and Peanut especially, the two of them need to cut down on their individual mistakes, being too aggressive, looking for something that isn't really there, trying to create a play when the opening isn't as big as they might imagine it is. They've both kind of been feeding some situations where they jump in as Katarina or whatever it is and get punished for it. So they need to kind of reel that back in just a little bit without losing their aggressiveness and proactivity. And on the team scale, they've also had situations where they've gone for a Baron call that they didn't really need to and kind of created a comeback opportunity for their opponents. So keep their play clean, dial back the aggression, maybe just 1 or 2 notches, and that will help them avoid any situations where KT can really punish them and turn the game around. On the KT Rolster side, the first thing I want to see for them, I would like to see KT put priority on Deft. Deft has been amazing this season. Definitely one of the best players in Korea so far. And I want to see KT giving him the tools he needs to carry through the lane phase and beyond. Deft and Mata have been really good at winning the lane, hitting the towers, and generating leads for the team. I mentioned before the 88% first tower rate, and Deft and Mata have a lot to do with that. The thing is, though, that the only AD carry in LCK who has a better CS difference at 10 minutes and gold difference at 10 minutes than Deft is Bang on SKT. That may have something to do, you'd have to, study this very closely, but that may have something to do with how they're playing at the lane. I think I've, just anecdotally, I think I've seen Deft and Mata spend a little bit more time chipping towers and shoving the lane forward and working on the objective rather than straight up winning through trading and CS leads and punishing the opponent for trying to CS, that kind of thing. So that may explain a little bit of the difference, but you'd have to study that a little more closely. But in general, Deft and Mata, they know how to play the lane to get this lead, but they're up against probably some of the stiffest opponents they're going to face, other than maybe Prey and Gorilla would be in that same realm. So a KT need to probably draft and also set up the map in ways to funnel power into Deft and Mata. Make sure they've got lanes that can win early, that can move into the tower work, roll into the rest of the map once they hopefully do knock down that first tower in the bottom lane, whether that's a lane swap into the top, whether that's just a standard kind of shift into mid lane and work on wave clearing mid and shoving pressure there. Whatever it is, I want to see KT use Deft in that way, and then obviously if they have a bit of a lead or if they go even with a comp that has better scaling, then they can use Deft in the team fights, where he's also been really excellent, and get advantages there. So another thing that I want to see KT do, I want to see them play to punish. So I was calling for proactivity from SKT, and I kind of want to see the other side of the coin a little bit more from KT. And this is not to say that either team needs to shift entirely in one direction, and that SKT should never look for any reactive play and KT should never look for any initiation. There always has to be a balance of both. But I'd like to see KT trend a little bit more in the side of reactive play, looking for SKT to, kind of put themselves out there, potentially open themselves up to a counter punch or to some kind of punishment. Jungle is going to be a really key place for this. I'd like to see Score on whether it's a champion matchup or just the way he sets up his pathing and vision control. I'd like to see him play a little bit more defensive, look for counter ganks, look for vision, for tracking Peanut, to make him feel uncomfortable. Because, as I was mentioning before, Peanut has had some games where he's been kind of inconsistent, where he's taken some risks that he was punished for. And that, if you can get Peanut into that mindset where either, oh no, I'm falling behind, I've got to do something, and then he can accidentally make a mistake, or where Peanut, just loses some confidence, that would be really good for KT. And also, I think this is good for Score in the way you want to see him play, because the most visible games that Score has had this season so far have been when he's on the kind of the control play, when he's on the defensive pathing, managing the enemy jungler rather than going out and trying to snowball himself or snowball his teammates with a lot of aggressive ganking. I think Score is one of those junglers who's really good at playing both styles. Especially we saw this last year when he was kind of all over the place and definitely the best jungler in the world. I think in this specific matchup, though, I'd like to see Score play something a little more defensive, a little more control oriented. And in general, I think this also plays into KT's strengths at extending the lane phase when they need to, depending on the comp matchup and what their kind of single game win conditions are. They're really good at managing their power curves. If they know that they can play the laning phase out, get CS advantages, work on the towers better, Smeb dodging ganks and whatever else it is, and just kind of absorbing momentum from the enemy team and kind of dispelling it, then I think that's something KT is really good at, and they should be using that to deal with SKT's aggression, to slow the pace when they need to, make the game a little more objective focused, a little less skirmishy, and get that to kind of gain themselves an advantage and gain themselves more comfort, and maybe frustrate SKT a little bit. The other key piece in playing reactively or playing to punish is that you need to have enough vision to get a read on what the enemy is doing, either by directly seeing them or by by seeing enough of the map to infer, okay, they're not here and here, they must be over here, and they're probably trying to do this. So you need a lot of vision to do that. And this is something they're going to have to be a little bit careful about, because Mata is a very prolific warder. Has been throughout his career. Even when he's in China, you get him into these international events, and suddenly you have access to his warding data, and suddenly you notice how high his numbers are. He wards more than almost anybody else historically, but he's had some issues this split with a little bit too much face checking, dying while warding. He's got one of the higher death shares on the team, so KT are really going to need that vision control to play the way I think they need to play. And that means Mata has to, manage his movement a little bit, probably work with score a little better, and just try to avoid giving up those one or two deaths that can really, be the start of a snowball or get his team punished. The final point for KT Rolster, I would like to see them work the side lanes. So by that I mean, in the early game, talking about Pawn, not making him the individual player who is a win condition for him to carry, but making him the supportive, the roaming player who is going to kind of hold his own in the mid lane, but then get out into the side lanes and make action happen there. Whether it's going for a tower dive alongside score, or some other kind of move, but making it more about using Pawn to assist Smeb, assist Deft, and make sure that they are able to be strong and carry. Don't worry about playing through mid lane, getting mid lane strong and then going out on the rest of the map. Worry about the side lanes first and how you can use Pawn to make the side lanes effective. Later in the game, once you get to the mid game and the late game, I also want to see the side lanes be a really high priority for KT. I want to see them get a handle on their split push macro, how they set up the lanes, how they work on cross map pressure, because this is something that is actually, this would be playing, improving on a weakness for them. Which is not to say that KT are bad at their mid-game macro and how they play multiple lanes, but it is something that has been kind of imperfect from them, I would say. There have been issues where they are having one part of the map attacked and the other part of the map doesn't have enough pressure to make a proactive play and, trade a tower when you lose a kill or whatever it is. Kind of the classic setup is that's what a split push is meant to do. If they kill you over here, you take a tower over there, you win the trade. KT haven't been as organized on that as I think they should be, and I think they could be based on how much veteran status they have, how good their shot calling should be. So I want to see them improve on the way they're playing the side lanes, playing the split push, and if they can improve on that, that'll go a long way towards helping them overcome SKT. So to recap all of that, I would like to see SKT set the pace, flow through the mid lane, and keep it clean. I would like to see KT Rolster put priority on Deft, play to punish, and work the side lanes. So let me know who you're cheering for in the comments. Share your own expectations, your own win conditions if you see things a little differently. Don't forget to subscribe while you're at it. Check out oracle.elixir.com for all the player, team, and champion stats you need to prepare yourself for the match.